In a billionaire's paradise on the most exclusive island in the Bahamas, a nightmare unfolded. Early on the morning of July 3rd, the body of a 20-year-old Paige Bell was discovered inside the engine room of a luxury yacht. She had only been a crew member for a few months, and she hoped that working on a billionaire's yacht would be her ticket to a better future. And the most heartbreaking part? She was just 11 days away from her 21st birthday. She had one last week of work to finish before flying home to celebrate. A celebration of a future she mistakenly thought was secure, a future built on escaping her past. Paige Bell was born in South Africa, a country with high crime rates. For her family, a job on a luxury yacht in the Bahamas felt like the safest place in the world, but it would prove to be a fatal illusion. That illusion was shattered when Paige's body was found in the yacht's engine room. The evidence at the scene pointed not to an accident, but to something far more sinister, and the main suspect was someone she saw every day. And to understand the tragic irony of her story, we have to go back to the beginning. She was born in the Republic of South Africa, and growing up in a country with a struggling economy and high crime rates could make anyone cynical, but not Paige. She was a golden girl with a smile that could light up any room. She grew up in Durban, a city by the sea, and dreamed of a life on the water. For her family, who knew the daily risks of life back home, a job on a luxury yacht seemed like the perfect escape. A life of adventure that was also a crucial financial lifeline. Earning in US dollars meant Paige could build a real future back home, and she was brilliant at her job. On her first yacht, the Sweet Emotion, she was more than just a colleague to the crew. To them, she was family. Her social media painted a perfect picture: exotic locations, smiling selfies with her boyfriend, a life most people only dream of. But in one chilling TikTok video, she joked about sharing her location with a friend, just in case something happened. She had no idea how prophetic those words would be. In January of 2025, she started her new job on a super yacht called Far From It, anchored in a billionaire's paradise. A vessel that rents for approximately $165,000 per week. It was the definition of luxury. Tragically, her work in this place of unimaginable wealth would ultimately cost her everything. But blissfully unaware of this, Paige was celebrating. She was preparing to fly home for her upcoming 21st birthday, a hugely significant milestone in South Africa. She had just one more week of work to finish, and then she would be reunited with her family. But it was a reunion that was never meant to be. Her mother, Michelle, was already planning the perfect party, centered around Paige's favorite red velvet cake. Her boyfriend, too, was reportedly planning his own celebration for her. Everyone was waiting for Paige to come home. A party that promised so much would never happen 11 days before her 21st birthday. In the early morning of July 3rd, 2025, a horrifying discovery was made. Paige's body was found in the engine room of a luxury yacht. This sent shockwaves, not just through her family, but through the entire nautical community. The setting of this tragedy was supposed to be a place of perfect safety, a tiny island called Harbor Island, a place so exclusive it's been nicknamed Billionaire Central. With its fortress-like mansions and private security, it's where people like Mick Jagger, Tom Cruise, and even Prince Harry go to escape the world. It's where security is not just a priority, it's an obsession. And it's where nothing ever goes wrong. But in the early hours of July 3rd, that illusion was shattered by a disturbing crime aboard the super yacht Far From It. And what happened didn't take place in the dead of night. The call to the Royal Bahamas Police came in at 1 p.m. in the middle of the day. And what exactly happened out there in that perfect paradise remains a dark mystery. It began with a single unsettling detail. Paige was late for her duties. For a girl known for her punctuality, This was the first sign that something was terribly wrong. Her phone simply wasn't answering. A sense of unease began to spread through the yacht, and soon, a search began. On a 140-foot vessel adrift in paradise, there is nowhere to hide. But there is also nowhere to run. So they swept through the vessel's 140 feet of luxury cabins and entertainment areas, a frantic hunt on a ship adrift in paradise. Their search led them down to the lowest deck, to a part of the yacht guests never see, the engine room, a confined and isolated space where the frantic search came to an end. What they found there shattered the morning calm. Paige was unconscious, and there were clear signs of a struggle. A local doctor was rushed to the yacht, but it was too late. He could only confirm what the crew already feared. Paige was gone. But she hadn't been alone in that engine room. Police found someone else lying on the floor right next to her body. A 39-year-old engineer and fellow crew member, Brigito Munoz. He had severe injuries to his arm, injuries that police would later describe with a single chilling word: suspicious. According to the official report, they were not consistent with a defensive struggle. This crucial detail suggested one thing. There was likely no third person involved in that engine room. It was just him and Paige. This evidence began to form a clear narrative for the authorities. His location next to Paige and his peculiar injuries led authorities to theorize it might have been an attempt to stage the scene. Brigito was taken from the scene for medical treatment. Upon his release, he was formally accused. For the police, the theory was simple: a serious crime followed by a failed attempt to obscure the investigation. But the haunting question of why remained. While authorities have not released an official motive, the evidence from the scene, including the nature of the attack and the state in which Paige was found, pointed to something deeply personal. This led investigators to form a leading theory that the tragedy was a grave reaction, potentially stemming from rejection. The exact nature of the relationship between Paige and Brigito Munoz remains unclear. Officially, police have released few details. But one fact is certain: they were not strangers. They worked side by side on the Far From It, a professional relationship that, on that night, seems to have crossed a terrible and fatal line. And this leads to one of the most unsettling questions in the entire case. Why was Paige in the engine room? As a stewardess, her duties were with the guests in the opulent heart of the yacht, not in its mechanical depths. Had a celebration on board gotten out of control? Or was she lured into that isolated room under some false pretense? For now, these questions remain just that, speculation. But a key detail about the crime scene adds another layer to the mystery: the engine room's isolation. With as many as 8 crew members on board, how could a struggle go completely unheard? No one reported a single suspicious sound until Paige was already missing. This suggests one of two possibilities. Either what happened was swift and silent, or the depths of the yacht were isolated enough to muffle any sound. As the Royal Bahamas Police focused on Brigito Munoz, the picture that emerged was one of surprising normalcy. He was a 39-year-old mechanical engineer from Mexico, a family man with a wife and children, according to his social media profile. A seemingly ordinary life, now connected to the events of that day. He now sits in a Bahamian jail awaiting a trial, and according to legal experts familiar with the region, it could be a long wait, as the wheels of justice in the Bahamas can turn slowly, with cases like this sometimes lingering for years. If convicted, Brigito Munoz faces the possibility of life in a Bahamian prison, potentially without parole. His defense may argue a lack of premeditation or explore a mental health angle. For Paige Bell's family, the tragedy left an immeasurable void. They had been planning her 21st birthday party, complete with her favorite red velvet cake. Instead, they faced the painful task of bringing their daughter home from the Bahamas to South Africa. A journey made even harder by significant financial costs. In a statement, Paige's sister Chelsea laid bare the family's struggle, saying, "We are devastated beyond words, and now we must also navigate complex and costly legal proceedings in a foreign country, something far beyond our family's financial means. But in their grief, they were not alone. The colleagues Paige had worked with on her previous yacht, the Sweet Emotion, started a GoFundMe campaign to support them. The description read, "Paige was more than a colleague, she was family." With an initial goal of $16,000, the campaign raised nearly $47,000 to help with repatriation and legal costs. To honor her on what would have been her 21st birthday, the campaign made a special request for people to eat red velvet cake and share a photo. On July 14th, 2025, friends, family, and supporters worldwide answered the call. While in Cape Town, dozens gathered on a beach, lighting candles and sharing memories. Paige Bell's story is a tragedy that crosses borders. A young woman full of dreams who left her home for an adventure at sea had her life cut short. Now, beyond keeping her memory alive, her family also intends to fight for justice.